Hello and welcome to another Follow the Project. And in this episode, we're at that great point in the garden where we go from hardscape to softscapes, where we start bringing a lawn into the garden, a cornerstone of any garden, that organic, vibrant, lush, green, fertile space where you bring in nature and you can spend your summer months meditatively mowing and getting that lovely, wonderful aroma of freshly cut grass. And in this episode, we're going to be taking a closer look at how to prepare and lay your lawn. And here's one I laid earlier.
Sorry, that's just soil, that's brown.
Oh, it's that, yeah. How did I get that so wrong? It's there, sorry. So we've already looked at how to seed your lawn and top dress your lawn, but how do you start from scratch if you want to use lawn turf? Well, as with everything, it's all in the preparation, it's all in the groundworks. It's the things that you don't see, which are the boiler room of any plant. We've always said in our previous videos how important that root structure is to any plant. Think of your lawn just like you would your favorite flowers and plants in your garden, because you want those to succeed. And so many people forget that the root system is integral in order to the health and heart of your lawn. So we want to make sure that our new lawn turf gets the best groundworks possible. And this is exactly what we're after. I don't know if you can see here on the camera, but it's a much sandier blend. Now, there are a few smaller stones. That's forgivable with your lawn, it's absolutely fine. It just adds a bit more structure, creates oxygen pockets, and allows your root system to penetrate into those voids. Now, what I wanted to be able to do, even though I've prepared this ground, and I'll show you how to prepare it shortly, is I can still just scrape away. It's not compacted too hard, and you'll also see just how sandy and fine that root system is. Here we call this root zone, because this is the zone where those roots are going to penetrate into, latch onto all those nutrients, all that oxygen, and most importantly of all, the water. We want the water to be able to be retained, but we don't want it to be too heavy, too wet, especially in those winter months, because that's when the root rot can start happening. If you've got areas of lawn which over the winter months start expiring or get boggy, that's because they're deoxygenated and because the root system is just getting completely saturated all winter long. We want to avoid that, and it's essential that we've got free draining but nutrient-rich material so those fledgling root systems can latch on, grab hold, and start to grow. So how deep do you go if you want the roots to grow? Now, I would recommend if you've got areas of clay, if you've got boggy ground, wet ground, and if you've lost many a lawn over the winter months, the more the merrier. I would get rid of the material that's stopping that root system developing and then supplement it with at least 15 to 20 centimeters. And that means that we can then reinstate with good mineral-rich, free draining material. So once that goes in loose, you need to prepare your lawn, because we want a nice level lawn. We don't want furrows, mounds and spikes. We want to make sure that it's good, level and easy to mow. Now, if you have got terrain, the one thing I would suggest you invest in is what we call a landscaping rake. So that's a broad, soft-tined rake. So these are much springier. You can get rid of the bigger stones, but you can also then start leveling out, especially if you've got a slightly banked area, you'll get a much more even finish. So I've disturbed my ground here, so I want to level it back out. And because I've been digging in it, I've now softened that ground. And that's where the march of the penguins comes in. This is actually a bona fide way of preparing the ground, because that root system from the lawn is fledgling. We've got kind of young root systems, so we don't want the ground to be too heavy. We don't want it to be a hard layer underneath that lawn turf. We want that root system to get in, dive into the goodness. So if you use something like a whacker or a heavy roller, you're going to compress that soil, you're going to deoxygenate it. It's not going to be easy for that root system to get into it. And if they do manage to get into it, it's only going to be surface deep. So as long as it can withstand the weight of me, the ground is good and solid enough and prepared enough to accept the lawn turf. Now, you want to make doubly sure, I don't know if you saw there, I dropped in. So we want to fill that hole with additional soil to make sure that we don't have a furrow, because when it rains, we don't want that water to make this a bigger problem, because once that starts puddling, the water's going to sit there. So we want to make sure that we fill that void with additional soil and make sure that we've got a good level growing area. Now, if you want to be a bona fide lawn star, you want to make sure your wood is long enough. We've got a level area of lawn here, and we've got dedicated mowing edges. So you can use a screeding bar. Now, usually you'll see this method used on block paving driveways where you're screeding across sand, but you can do it on your areas of lawn as well. What you want to make sure is that this top element of soil is nice and soft, because you're then going to compress that with the March of the Penguins. The reason why you're going to compress it below the mowing edge is we want our lawn to fit inside our edging detail, and that way when we do mow, we're mowing the top of the grass and the root system isn't sat too high. So you're just going to pull across both edges. Always works better if you've got an extra pair of hands, but for video's sake, we're just going to screed that across. And can you see how this is still loose? And then when we do compress that, it will eventually sit down below that top area. It also allows you to identify any bigger stones that you don't want as well, and make sure you're going to get a perfectly good level finish across your lawn. Now, if your soil is a little bit stonier than you would like, and by that I mean you're seeing more stones on the surface than soil, then just scoop those up and get rid of those. And if you've got areas of boggy ground in your beds and borders, you can always turn those in and reuse those. Otherwise, they go in the skip or to the tip or in your green wheelie bin. Now, the things that I don't want to see, definitely, are things that won't pass through my rake. So we're looking for stones like that, because those are no good for our lawn. They can make their way to the surface, especially when the worms start getting engaged underground. Eventually they'll end up on the underside of our lawnmower, and that's what we don't want. So anything that won't pass through your rake, that goes completely. And just keep evaluating the surface, because chances are your eye will be drawn to those anomalies and the things that you don't want in your soil. So the more time you spend at this stage, the better your lawn's going to look overall. By working in one direction and working backwards, you can then avoid over-trampling your area of prepared lawn, and then it's on to turfing. Except it would be on to turfing, but Paul's just walked all over our lawn. Good work, Paul. Now, when it comes to lawn turf, there is a lot of choice. You can go for things like fescues, you can go for utility turf as we have, you can go for ornamental grasses, or you can even go for meadow grasses. On this project, we've gone for an ornamental turf. The reason why the client has possibly the biggest dog I've ever seen. They've got an old English sheepdog, and they're resigned to the fact that it's not going to stay looking like this for long. But they also want to create an organic environment for worms, for birds to feed in. So we've got a mixture of rugged rye, a few fescues in there, and it's all about the laying in order to make sure that it succeeds. Now, a few tips before we get started. If your turf gets delivered on a day like today, where the sun is beaming down, it's quite hot, that may have had a few hours journey from the field to a front drive. In some cases, it may have been sat idling for a day or two. Now, don't be alarmed if you get it and it's got a bit of a shade of yellow. Lawn turf is incredibly durable, incredibly tough. The only thing you need to worry about is giving it a shot in the arm, and that comes in the way of a good soaking and watering. If you are receiving your turf and you're not going to start work until the next day, try and get it dropped off somewhere shady, out of direct sunlight, and also give it a good soft soaking and misting with water over the top. If you can, cover it over with something to protect it from the sun beating down on it all day. And then we're good to start putting the turf down. That's worth having, if you can, a scaffolding board or a broad board on site, because you can lay them on top of the turf that you've laid, and you can still work on your area of new lawn without disrupting your soil preparation or the turf that you're laying. So grab the green stuff and then start rolling out that wonderful carpet of lawn. Start at the furthest point and work back towards the house, and try and work in stripes up and down. You'll see what I mean shortly. Those stripes won't stay, they're just a nice aesthetic detail. When you're looking at your freshly laid lawn from the house, you'll see stripes of dark and light. Butt up to the edge. Remember I mentioned we want to stay about 10 millimeters below. If you've got a few stray bits along your mowing edge, make sure they're cleared out, because you want that root system to sit in below that. So we've had about 3 weeks now of hard sun beating down. So a lot of the growers are leaving their lawns go along. The reason why they do that is because it's a tougher plant. If it's shorter and they're having to mow it, it's putting more stress on the lawn turf. So you'll find that a lot of our lawn turf suppliers at the moment, especially when it comes to the utility grass, are letting it go a little bit longer than it normally would. Bit of constant mowing and upkeep, and this will be back to good and looking its best in no time. Now, there's a couple of things to mention here as well. You want to lay your lawn turf in brick bond. What I mean by that is that you want any of the joints on each roll staggered. So you don't want to look down your lawn and see a long line of joints together. So the way we do that is we work a full roll, finish on a half roll, and we use that half roll again to create that staggered joint. Hopefully that makes sense. Does that make sense? If not, I'll show you here quickly. If I lift this up, You'll see there's one of my joints. If I go further up here, you see that my joints are offset. So it doesn't have to be a whole calf roll. You just want to make sure that we don't have one continual line of joints. And there's a couple of reasons behind that. One is obviously aesthetic, it's just better. But if we do have dry weather and your lawn does dry out, it'll start receding in size, and all of a sudden you've got one big line running all the way through the middle of your lawn when you're laying your lawn. As I told you, you're going to pay attention and be diligent pushing these together. So we're not going to have to worry about that. You're also going to water your lawn, so you don't have to worry about that. And in the very small chance that did happen, you know that there's a bit more cohesion in all those lawn turfs being together. So it's just a way of protecting and making sure you're doing the most thorough job possible. So when you roll your lawn turf out to the end, you've got a bit of excess. How do you cut it now? Keep a pocket full, don't keep a pocket full of standing blades in your pocket. Keep a set of well-protected standing knife blades somewhere in a safe distance whilst you're working, because you want to keep the blade as sharp as possible. And when you come to cutting it, a bit like you would a carpet, so roll it over, pull it back slightly, have a look where that lawn edge is going to sit into, and then I'm just going to run down. You see how sharp and quick and clean that cut is. So you want to do as sharp a cut as possible, clean a cut as possible, because we don't want to damage that root system. Then you're going to keep that half there, turn it back over, and you're going to roll it out in the opposite direction. Now, another tip when you're laying your lawn, if you're laying it in winter, obviously this is unavoidable, but keep an eye on the weather forecast. If you can try and find a dry pocket in that weather forecast to work, as I've mentioned in previous videos, it just makes your life much easier. And if you are moving soil, when it's saturated, it becomes very difficult to get the levels. It also becomes very difficult to work. You make twice as much mess and you work half as fast. If you are working in glorious baking hot sunshine, keep the hose to hand and keep watering liberally as you start to lay your lawn turf out. Everything we can do in order to make sure that we mitigate the risk of failure or the chance of failure, we should do so. And also, another top tip, make sure you've got the kettle on. Someone put the kettle on. Well, we're almost done, but your work is not finished yet because there's one last job to do. We've got to make sure that this gets a good drink now, especially on a day like today when it's quite warm. And the forecast says that we're not going to have rain until the end of the week. So we want to make sure it gets a good drink, and then I can go and get a good drink. And then that's when you can sit back and watch your grass grow. There's a few do's and don'ts when it comes to your lawn. Number one, do keep it well watered, especially on a day like today. Keep watering for at least 7 days after you've laid your lawn. Unless, of course, obviously the heavens open, because nature's going to do the work for you. But top tip for watering, up with the lark or just before dark. Earlier the better, because that's when it's going to be cooler. You're going to cause less stress on the plants. If that weather does get hot during the day, that water sitting on the surface can actually scorch the surface of your lawn. So cooler in the morning and cooler in the evening. It's also more enjoyable for yourself as well. Number two, do keep an eye out for areas that maybe are starting to curl up or don't look too happy. Better be reactive and get those repaired and reinstated before it causes any further damage. And the last one, do nothing else. Just enjoy watching the grass grow for at least 7 to 10 days. You'll see the grass come alive and start going much more vertical, especially if the sun's out. And then that's when the root system's starting to permeate and latch onto your new soil below. But don't walk on your lawn. I'm walking on the edging, just so you know. You don't want to create any furrows, you don't want to disturb the soil underneath, you don't want to trample on the grass. Try and keep pets off as well. I used to have a Great Dane. They go nuts for some reason. Some of the organic feeds may use chicken pellet, and it drives the dogs nuts. And there's nothing worse if you've got a Great Dane, seeing half your lawn disappearing down the road in its jaws. So keep your pets away, keep your kids at bay, keep yourself at bay until this is well and truly bedded in. And how will you know if it's bedded in? Well, there will be no obvious signs of the joints. The lawn will become one cohesive blanket of green, and then that's when it's good to mow. Now, personally, I'd let your grass grow to at least 7 to 10 centimetres long before you make your initial pass on the grass, and then that's when you're going to become a bona fide lawn star. And mowing shouldn't be a pain in the grass. It should be a therapeutic, enjoyable job. And we've got a video coming up on just that subject. We'll be looking at when to mow, how to get the best out of your lawn. So don't forget to subscribe and keep an eye on the channel to see when that video comes up. We're going to be doing a whole video to close this project down, because this isn't a garden until it's got some plants and some colour in it, and we'll be dedicating an entire video on just that subject.